Won the game 24-0 against Southeastern, but didn't play a great game. They were actually outgained by Southeastern, but defensively got three turnovers that allowed them to score 21 points in the third quarter to win that game 24-0. This is an opponent for LSU that they should have the opportunity to go out and win big.
I agree, Hunter, and like you mentioned, the Nichols game last year, they ran it all over LSU. So you want to keep that intensity early. You want to. The offensive intensity has to be there, and really on the offensive lines, I'm looking for LSU to kind of dominate this game early, down low, and hopefully we'll see the Tigers be up 3 touchdowns late in the first quarter. Here's Coach Brian Kelly on keeping up that intensity.
We didn't do that against Nichols State last year, and so we've talked about that. There's a standard of playing football here at LSU, and that's the standard that we're going to have to play when we go every time on that field. Every Saturday, there's a standard, and our guys know what the standard is. We're going to be demanding, not demeaning, but we're going to be demanding, and they're going to have to live up to those standards, and they know that. I mean, we've already talked about what to expect this week, but our expectations are if we want to go 1-0, we have to do the same things each and every week, and we're not moving off of that.
That 1-0 mantra, it's going to be old by a couple weeks now, but if they keep winning, it really doesn't matter. Of course, LSU putting the 1-0 everywhere on their shirts last week before the Clemson game. They'll continue to do that. I know in their team facility they have the schedule out there, and it just has Louisiana Tech this week as it had Clemson for the first, 4 or 5 weeks of fall camp. So, again, that mantra will work as long as they keep winning, and it keeps them focused on what's ahead of them and not looking forward to next week, which is a big game with Florida.
Yeah, absolutely. And really, when we're at the Clemson game, we saw the team come out in these unique practice shirts to warm up, and they had 1-0 written across the back. And you think, man, Brian Kelly and this LSU team is really bought into they have to win this first game, right? They talked about how important it was for them to start 1-0, but I like it as a mantra. When they came out and said, no, this is for every week. Like, we are working every week to be 1-0. I think it does keep you locked into the moment, and with that, we'll see if the Tigers, like Brian Kelly said, can continue that trend of going 1-0.
We put ourselves out there, and look, sometimes you got to go out on the limb. And some say it's not smart. I knew the team that we had, and I knew it was a mature enough team that we could put that on them regardless of what the outcome would be. And we knew 1-0 was going to be where we wanted to be. You can see on the board right here, there's only one game that's visible on that board, and that's Louisiana Tech. The other one's covered up from the week before and all the others. And so it's just been a mindset that we've kept, and so the 1-0 wasn't targeted, hey, this is, rubbing it in Clemson's nose. This was our mantra for the year. We just want to focus 1 week at a time. Avoid the noise, stay locked in, and do the things that we've been doing, then we can get to 1-0 each week.
Now tonight's game for LSU, one of 3 games they have this season against non-Power 4 opponents. And of course, with the SEC going to a 9-game schedule in the future, the Tigers will play less non-conference games, and that kind of makes it so the opportunity for in-state teams to play money games at LSU may go away, may not. Hunter, what do you think could happen there? Because it seems like Coach Kelly wants that to keep happening and to keep the money in the state, but there are just fewer opportunities.
Well, like you said, they're moving to that 9-game conference schedule starting next season, and then a 10th game on the schedule includes having to play another Power 4 opponent. So that leaves 2 games on the schedule each season for other matchups that are out of conference, and that may be in-state games. And Brian Kelly talked this week about how he's for and really hopes that trend of playing Louisiana teams will continue into the future.
Well, I still think there's a place. We're going to play 12, so if you got 9 plus maybe we play one up in a Power 4, there's 10. I think the other 2 can very easily come from the state of Louisiana. So I would still be in favor of doing that and hope that we do moving forward.
Well, we're just getting started here. It's great weather for football, but it is a little bit muggy here.
It is.
It absolutely is. And we're going to head back over to studio right now, and Dave Baker's got our first forecast where, like I said, here, and we expect a lot of Tiger fans to be packing into Death Valley to start up this LSU opening season.
Absolutely, yeah. And it is very muggy out there, but you still need to keep an eye on the sky while tailgating and even during the football game later on, because there will be a few isolated thunderstorms that will be out there. We've seen some north of the region, but a lot of that action has started to dissipate as it rolls a little bit farther to the south. But it is really a pretty day out there, although it is muggy, but we've got some great stuff for you ahead here. Temperature about 85 over in Hammond, 85 here in the capital city, and 87 degrees over in New Orleans. Elsewhere, we've got a couple of spotty showers that are still sticking around here to our north, but we've got more rain that continues a little bit farther inland, a few coastal showers, but the big stuff this morning was up here over northern Louisiana, and that is the front. The front is about ready to make its way through Natchez, and we'll slide a little bit farther toward the south. So as we get into the tailgating time period this afternoon and overnight tonight, it looks like temperatures are going to be falling from the 90s back down into the 70s later on, and with a nice northerly breeze, we're going to be seeing some big differences in our temperature. So isolated thunderstorms today is what you need to know. Just keep an eye on the sky. If you hear thunder, make sure you move in someplace that's safe. Cold fronts going through the area this afternoon, but we won't really feel the effects of it until we get into Sunday evening, and gorgeous weather is on tap for next week. We'll talk about highs in the 80s and overnight lows in the 60s in the weather forecast coming up in just a few minutes.
Thanks, Dave. And right now, it's a great day for some tailgating, but like you said, let's hope it holds up. Either way, I'll be out there in around an hour for this week's Tailgate Stories. For next week, the Tigers host a big rival, the Florida Gators. And with that, we'll be going out and seeing Tiger fans who are cooking up some Gators to begin conference play. If you want your tailgate stories told this season, then email me at jcollins@wbrz.com right there on your screen and tell me where you'll be set up, what game you'll be at, and the story of your tailgate. I'll stop by and share its story. Well, coming up on WBRZ Morning News, we head back out to LSU with Jack and Hunter as they break down the LSU offense. Keep it here. You're watching WBRZ, the only locally owned and operated TV station in South Louisiana, a part of your family for 70 years.
ED, low T, or simply seeking to optimize your health and performance? Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness offers a range of discreet services to address your specific needs. We empower men to reclaim their health and confidence. Visit yourgoodwood.com.
Casa Bonita Imports liquidation sale is going on now. Save 40 to 60% off all terracotta pottery. Save 25 to 50% off Talavera pottery. 50% off all metal items and concrete fountains. And even more items, 50 to 60% off. Casa Bonita's liquidation sale. Airline at Prairieville.
It's Dancing with the Stars. Pump up the jam, pump it up while your feet are stumping. A place to stay, get your booty on the foot tonight. Make my day, pump up the jam.
My feet hurt so bad in the morning, I couldn't even put my feet on the floor. So I had to start engineering my own arch support. So I got that, then I put this in there, this one. Finally, before I added another one of these in, I went to Good Feet, and they gave me this. So I built all this together to engineer a solution to my pain. And if I'd have just gone to Good Feet, I'd have been better off in the first place.
Good Feet Arch Supports, engineered for pain relief, personally fitted for you.
For over 75 years, Robinson Brothers Lincoln has redefined luxury in Baton Rouge, delivering an experience as refined as the vehicles we sell. Step into the elegance of the 2025 Lincoln Black Label. From the commanding Navigator to the sophisticated Nautilus, each Lincoln is designed to elevate your drive. Plus, with Lincoln Priority Service, you'll enjoy effortless maintenance and a seamless ownership experience. And as always, no unexpected fees. Redefining luxury since 1946. Robinson Brothers Lincoln.
Men, age is just a number. Don't let it dictate how you feel. Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness has anti-aging services that can help you look and feel your best. Visit yourgoodwood.com and discover a renewed sense of vitality.
From the official news station of LSU Athletics, this is WBRZ Morning News at 10.
I think it's been pretty obvious that there's been an emphasis in making sure that we run the ball and become more balanced to set up play action. So to do that, when you're in a spread offense, you have to be creative.
Welcome back. Just outside Tiger Stadium, Jack Schemmel, Hunter McCann as LSU prepares for their home opener against Louisiana Tech. You heard Brian Kelly talk right there about balance in the offense. The Tigers did not have that last year. They could not run the ball. They really had to rely on Garrett Nussmeier, and they really couldn't take the top off the defense either until late in the season, so they were pretty one-dimensional. of course, last week we saw that they could run the ball. They ran it for over 100 yards on a good Clemson defense, and they were very creative. Joe Sloan was in his play calling. Hunter, you were there. What did you see just in terms of game flow and play calling?
I was impressed. Even though LSU didn't really put a lot of points in that first half, the ball was moving down the field. They would get into Clemson territory and kind of sputter, and they were trying to figure out what are they doing wrong here. They go to halftime, come out in the second half, and it's a completely different ball game. Like I mentioned a few minutes ago, like they came out, scored 14 unanswered points, and shut out Clemson defensively. But on the offensive side of the ball, I was really impressed about not just the movement and the motion that we saw from the offense, but the purposeful motion that we saw in Joe Sloan's offensive play calling. And Brian Kelly this week talked about how impressed he was with Joe Sloan's play calling.
You're moving receivers and tight ends around. Your run game can feature, wide receivers in it as well. They're blocking, running. So I think just keeping that same mindset, really, and moving forward, that we have to continue to be that way and find the areas where we can prod and get the best looks to run the football.
And I think it's really important, like you mentioned, to have that type of balance within this LSU offense, because you're going to play a lot of great opponents this year, and it really did kind of bite them on the rear last year, the inability to run the football. But if you're able to have that dynamic flow where you're really having to make defenses respect your run game, respect the quarterback run game, we saw Garrett Nussmeier tuck it a few times in some key situations and get first downs, you could expect this LSU offense to be very rhythmic.
And that game management that Joe Sloan had, well, Garrett Nussmeier benefits from the run game. Obviously, you mentioned he ran the ball a little bit last week. He also has another year under his belt. I think he really played a good football game last week. We bill him as a gunslinger. Last week he really played a game management style of quarterback, but that's not a bad term, I don't think, especially in a big environment like that. Don't turn the ball over. Hit the guys when they're open, and if the big play's there, take it. Of course, we'll get to that Berrien Brown play in just a bit that got taken off the board. But here's Coach Kelly on Nuss's ability to kind of manage the game and how he's grown this offseason.
I think there were a couple of times where, we could have, on our end got the play in a little sooner, but his management was outstanding. That's as good as he's been in terms of, getting us in the right run plays, making the right checks. As I said, I think he held the ball for no more than 2.2 seconds on an average. The ball came out quickly. That helps your offensive line. I thought he did that happens only when you have a veteran quarterback.
Being comfortable also for Garrett Nussmeier helps when you have a safety blanket like Aaron Anderson, obviously the Tigers' leading receiver last season. He's that guy again this year. We expect him to be a major force in this Tiger offense. Of course, he played well against Clemson, had a couple first down plays that really kind of moved the chains and got this LSU offense going. Hunter, what do you feel Aaron Anderson kind of provides to Garrett Nussmeier in this offense?
I think you're right. I think comfort, being able to have him as a safety blanket. And there's a plethora of offensive talent on this team, especially at the wide receiver position. But I think it's really impressive to see a guy like Aaron Anderson, a guy that's been in this system before, watch him take that next step and feel comfortable in those hostile environments like Clemson. I expect that the team around him, as well as the rest of the wide receivers, will make a huge impact this year. But just having that ability to make the big plays, and Nussmeier knows exactly where Anderson's going to be at all times, goes for nearly 100 yards in the pass game. I was impressed with him, and so was Brian Kelly this week when he talked about that impact that Aaron Anderson makes on the field for the Tigers.
He's an electric playmaker. And Aaron would tell you that there's more there. He's growing as a young man and making good choices and doing the right thing, taking care of his body. And now the next thing is consistency in his practicing, because the carryover is when the lights go on, he's a different dude. So I just like his maturity and the growth that he is showing each and every week when he comes into the building. That's why he's going to have continued success here and down the road.
And back to those offensive playmakers, there was a big play in this game that will not end up on the stat sheet, and that was, of course, that Berrien Brown deep pass that they ruled was out at the 2-yard line. They go to video review because everybody thinks, oh, that's a touchdown. I sure thought it was a touchdown sitting maybe 50 yards away up in the press box. Come to find out, it's nor a catch nor a touchdown. They rule it an incomplete pass. What did you think about that that reception that got taken away from Barry and Brown.
Yeah, I had a different view from you because I was watching it on TV, and at least in the broadcast, they were talking about how it was a catch, the official that they bring on for those calls.
Yeah.
He was saying it was a catch. Now, I understand both sides of the issue here. Like, what is a catch? We don't really know, but did he go complete the catch through the ground? I don't know. But when does the play end? Does it end when he hits the ground or hit the pylon?
Across the pylon, yeah.
So that is really the confusion that Brian Kelly has as well.
Are you a runner or are you a catcher of the football? And kind of putting a burden on the wide receiver. The wide receiver has to catch the football. He then is a runner, and then he's got to survive the ground. You saw earlier, Caden Durham came over the goal line and hit the ground, the ball popped out. Well, a runner doesn't have the same burden as a wide receiver. So, there is conversation about how we can make this cleaner, for sure. Because clearly, from a common sense standpoint, that doesn't make much sense. So the rule was applied correctly by the letter of it, but rules are made to be changed.
I guess we'll see as this week goes on. I know we had a catch in a later game this week that was confusing as well. I couldn't remember what the game is, but let's get to this LSU defense. We've kind of not talked about them so far, but they were really the story last weekend against Clemson, not allowing a point in the second half, holding the other Tigers, to 10 points in the whole game, and I believe it was 31 rushing yards.
That's correct.
Hunter, that's a huge change from last year, but really, we talk about the rushing yards, really the secondary came to play.
Yeah, I mean, this entire defensive staff is bought into Blake Baker's defensive coordinator. I mean, he's just done a great job of bringing in that fresh talent from the transfer portal and being very instrumental in making it all mesh together, and we saw it mesh very well last Saturday. And then you talk about this secondary, bringing in a lot of guys from the transfer portal, especially standout Mansour Delane, who had an interception last week and was a huge playmaker on the defensive side of the ball. And we talked to Mansour earlier in the week, and he said he's here for the exact reason everybody thinks he's here, to be a playmaker and make a difference for this Tiger team.
True, that's why Coach Kelly brought all us in here, to go handle business, and that's what we're here for. So I don't think we just doing our job and, it's showing off. Going back on film, a lot of the stuff I seen on film, and I'm a big film guy, so like picking up on tendencies just makes the game easier for me, and then going out there playing fast.
I know LSU fans hope the Tigers are making a return to DBU status. I think we have a long way to go this season before we get there, but the hope is there as well. Of course, after the break, we'll have Hunter McCann breaking down his best bets of the week, and maybe I'll add a little flavor in there as well. We'll see you after the break.
Louisiana has big weather, and that can mean big damage to your roof. Call us for a free roof inspection to be sure. If we find damage, we'll even help you file it with your insurance. Protect your home with Rice & Roofing.
Just to be on the safe side.
How does the Ruffino family make shopping at Sherwood TV and Appliances an experience second to none?
We strive to make you feel like a part of our family when you walk into our store.
We offer competitive prices on quality name brand TVs and major lines of appliances.
We deliver and install. And when you have questions, you speak to one of us. We service what we sell, and we're there for the life of your purchase.
So we invite you to continue to think outside the box. Shop local. Shop Sherwood TV and Appliances.
We see it in every step they take. We see it in every lesson they learn. And we see it in every dream they have. In every stage of life, it's how they grow that matters. At the Baton Rouge Clinic, our team of pediatricians are here to provide exceptional health care for your entire family, for every moment and every phase of how they grow. We are caring for generations.
Hi, I'm Jacob with Arrow Pest Control.
Pests can be a nightmare. Protect Grandma with Arrow's $20 initial pest control special and our eco-friendly termite control starting at just $349. Call Arrow Pest Control to schedule your free consultation today.
Louisiana has big weather, and that can mean big damage to your roof. Call us for a free roof inspection to be sure. If we find damage, we'll even help you file it with your insurance. Protect your home with Rice and Roofing.
Just to be on the safe side.
Call me Peyton Murphy. I am a Louisiana shoulder injury lawyer.
Now, this week's Best Bets with Hunter McCann.
Hunter McCann alongside Jack Schemmel here right outside Tiger Stadium on the ramp of the PMAC. Hunter, of course you just heard the music. We got some best bets to take us through. Not a incredible slate of games today, but some interesting ones.
Some great value, though. Some great value. We'll get it started here at home in the real Death Valley. LSU favored by 37.5 points against the Bulldogs tonight. Over-under in this game, 51.5 points. And we've talked a lot about this game already, and I'll just give you the reasons why I think LSU is absolutely going to dominate in this one. Their defense has proved they can run the ball real well, and LA Tech last week proved that they were going to try to run the ball a lot. I think they're going to shut them down real fast. This will be a very tough environment for Trey Kukoc, the quarterback for the Bulldogs. And then this LSU team, I think this is the opportunity for them to take a bunch of shots downfield and blow the top off of the Bulldogs. We didn't see a lot of that against Clemson other than that Barry and Brown, what was not a touchdown, taken off the board. I think that tonight's the opportunity to get those reps in, scaling those deep shots before you get into conference play against Florida next week. Give me LSU to cover the big 37.5 point spread on Saturday night.
I agree with you, Hunter. All right, what do you got coming next?
All right, later today on WBRZ at 2:30, we got Ole Miss and Kentucky. Ole Miss favored by 10.5 points. The over-under in this one at 50.5 points. And then here's a chance for the Rebels to get some revenge after they had Kentucky play at home last year. And Kentucky came in and won the game, and that ultimately was the reason they were not making it in the playoffs last year. Historically, this has been a very close game, Jack. This is like when LSU plays Arkansas or Auburn. It's always a close game. The last 4 matchups between these two teams have been decided by 3 or less points. Last week, Kentucky QB Zach Calzada played very poorly. It was really bad, Jack. But I think he's going to bounce back in a big way, even in a hostile environment, because statistically, Ole Miss should win by 30. But everybody's on Ole Miss, so I'm going to go against them, and I'm going to take Kentucky plus 10.5 points. I think Ole Miss will ultimately get that revenge, but Kentucky will cover the game.
Home SEC games, I think they play a lot in the spread and play a lot in the result. I agree with you. I don't like that I'm agreeing with Hunter, but I am.
Next game for you, Arizona State at Mississippi State. Sun Devils favored by 6.5 points on the road. The over-under in that one, 58.5 points. Now, this is a game that was played last year where Mississippi State went to Arizona, and Arizona got the 6-point victory at home. But it took 297 yards on the ground from Cam Scadaboo, who now plays for the New York Giants, so will not be there for the Sun Devils. This will be a game that Blake Sharpen, the quarterback from Mississippi State, will have to be, no pun intended, sharp, to be able to take down this Arizona State team. I think it's a very tough environment with the cowbells going that Arizona State's going to have to go into today. I think they're going to win the game. But I'm going to take the Bulldogs of Mississippi State to cover plus 6.5. I think it is way too many points at a big SEC game for Mississippi State.
I like the under.
I like that. Under 58.5 goes Jack Schemmel. Last game for you, big one between Michigan and Oklahoma tonight. Oklahoma in Norman favored by 4.5 points with the over-under set at 44.5 points. I'm expecting a low-scoring game like that over-under is. This will be a very slow-paced game. You got quarterback John Matier, the quarterback of Oklahoma, who had a big game last week for 392 yards and 3 touchdowns. He's now back home, and he's going to be facing Bryce Underwood, a quarterback I've never heard of, right? Bryce Underwood, right? Who had a pretty good game last week, over 250 yards against New Mexico. But now they're having to go play Oklahoma. And this is going to be a very tough situation for Bryce Underwood to go into Oklahoma and win a big game like this. I'm going to take the experience of John Matier to beat Michigan tonight. Give me the Sooners, minus 4.5 points at home in Norman.
I agree with you, Hunter. You want to take us wrap through everything
quick recap for you. LSU minus 37.5 points. Kentucky plus 10.5 points against Ole Miss. Mississippi State plus 6.5 against Arizona State, and then give me Oklahoma tonight in Norman minus 4.5 against Michigan.
All right, we'll have more news after the break, and we'll come back here at the end of the show.
RAC teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work,
creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. BRAC, your parks, our purpose.
Jerry Lane Buick GMC is the #1 Buick GMC dealer in the state, district, and Baton Rouge. We